can send, here's a transcription from a client meeting, or here is an idea I had, and suddenly I have a white paper and 3 posts a week and articles, and it's happening all in 2 days instead of daily eating at my time and my team's time.
You had the entire 6 months of content for me, all, basically lined up, and that was amazing.
You're listening to the Bold Women in Business podcast. Today we're doing something a little bit different, and we are pulling back the curtain on my signature offering, the Bold Day of Content. This is a one-day sprint that turns your ideas into a content system that actually brings your dream clients to you. Now, the reason I wanted to do this episode, I'll be totally honest, is because most people don't get what a bold day of content is. It doesn't make sense to people because it's really unique. It's not something I've seen almost anyone offer. This is content at scale in one day, and it really blows people's minds. So I figured the best way to show you what it's really all about would be to speak with 2 of my incredible Bold Day of Content clients to share their experience, and you can get a sense of what is possible with a Bold Day of Content. Before we dive in, I want to talk a little bit about why I created this. Here's the deal. Most entrepreneurs are not lacking ideas, right? Most of us are super creative. We have tons of ideas all the time. Founders are known for having just ideas galore. What many entrepreneurs lack is clarity, a plan, and momentum. And when they get stuck in this cycle of, I don't know how to bring my ideas to life, or I get overwhelmed by ideas, or I have so much else going on, they just don't create the content. They don't create the content that they need to bring people into their business. So I kept seeing this with my clients. I kept seeing them leaving their content completely neglected, and I couldn't stand it anymore, right? I would create these beautiful brands and websites for my clients, and then there would be no follow-up to bring traffic to their website and to bring their dream clients directly to their door. And so that's why I created the Bold Day of Content. This is a single day where we align on your message, we map out a simple system, and we create a ton of assets. We create so much content at scale, and it's all done by the end of the day. So today you're going to hear from 2 of my incredible Bold Day of Content clients, and they're very different use cases. Sandy is a creative founder who needed structure and confidence, and she hired me for one Bold Day of Content. We just worked together once. She's actually, believe it or not, my in-house designer at Honeybee Bold. She has her own firm, and so she wanted help building up her firm. We work together very closely all the time, but she hired me for a single Bold Day of Content to help create a plan. And then we're going to hear from Sam, who is an agency owner. She has a larger agency, and she needed to scale her content without losing her voice. So let's start with the before. Before Sandy and Sam came to me, where were they at?
I was very inconsistent with the marketing in general. I'd post random videos once every few weeks, then I'd stop because I just felt like my videos didn't align with my brand, and I needed guidance.
That quote says it all. Inconsistent output and no strategic guardrails equals chaos. Every post feels like you're starting from zero, and that can feel just so out of control. You feel like you just don't have any control over your marketing. And that is such a hard feeling as a founder, as someone who's trying to build something really intentional, to feel like you have no control over bringing people into the door. That's a very tough feeling to have.
We were creating content ourselves as an agency. I would have 2 or 3 full-time staff members helping me. I would jot down ideas, and then they would help me put them together, and we still felt behind.
So while Sandy is a solopreneur, Sam is running a little bit of a larger business. She does have a team working for her, and she kind of faced the same problem, which was that content was feeling super chaotic, super out of her control. But she had another layer of problem here, which is that her content was painfully expensive in time and energy. She actually shared with me when we first started working together that she was paying someone well over 6 figures just to handle the content, and she was not getting the output that she was looking for. And when she shared what the output was that she was getting, I said, we can do so much more with so much less time. So let's see what they actually got out of this.
It was extremely quick and simple. We had the meeting the first thing in the morning, and you asked me questions, whatever you needed, and then you just started. And then you gave me everything that night. It was amazing.
So that's a pretty typical cadence for the Bold Day of Content. I meet with my client in the morning for somewhere between 60 to 90 minutes. Sometimes it's less if it's a recurring client like Sam. I often meet with her just 30 minutes at a time. In that morning meeting, we align on what are the deliverables of today? What are we going to come out of today with? What are our goals? And making sure that I'm super clear on what's the output that's going to be expected of me. I then disappear to build all the things that we talked about so that my client can go back to doing what they're meant to do, right? They're going and doing their work. And then by the evening, my client has a neatly organized content stack. This is not like an all-day Zoom situation. They are not expected to be on the whole day. There's no decision fatigue. The content is done and dusted and delivered to them.
I sell my expertise, and so I'm hesitant to outsource, quote unquote, my content. And we've all seen AI slop on LinkedIn, and I don't want to create it. I know that my clients are going to hire me for my voice being out in the market. And so when I brought Rachel on board, I was skeptical because it's hard to outsource your voice. And I'm not really outsourcing it. Rachel's able to put together content. It's like she's in my brain pulling out my thoughts.
So this is such a huge thing. Voice fidelity is non-negotiable. I always start with my clients' words. This comes from their transcripts, their drafts, their messy notes. It's coming from them, their words. Sometimes it's coming from our recorded call, but their voice is what is driving the content. I expand their voice with strategy, but my clients are not outsourcing their voices. They're allowing me to amplify them.
2 days a month, 2 hours of my time a month, and I'm going to have the same or more amount of content way out, and that it's all kind of collaboratively created with me.
So a little bit of context so you understand my relationship with Sandy versus Sam. Sandy, like I mentioned, hired me for a one-off Bold Day of Content. Sam, though, hired me for a recurring 2 days a month for her agency. We've been working together at the time of this recording about 6-7 months with no signs of stopping because we're doing such incredible work together. So we follow that same model, but we're just batching it at scale.
You actually did 2 contents in one, right? So that I walked away with the website copy and the marketing content.
For Sandy, we focused on tightening her website messaging first because that was really important for her to have the confidence she needed to build her messaging off of that. And then we also built her out a full content marketing calendar with prompts, with guidance, with everything she needed to hit the ground running with it. Now let's take a look at the after. What did they get out of this incredible experience, or what did they continue to get out of this incredible experience?
Seeing it visually definitely was the confidence boost that I needed to actually start.
This is my favorite part of the Bold Day of Content is when my clients feel that sense of relief. Because when your message is clear and you have a plan on paper and you know what you're doing, showing up gets so much easier.
What I found is that by having my voice be so consistent out in the market, especially at this time, more people are thinking of me and referencing my agency as the leaders that we are because we're constantly present. Our voice hasn't dimmed despite needing to really tighten up on our resources and time. Instead, our voice has gotten louder and more prominent.
Here's the thing. Consistency is what builds credibility. People start remembering you. They start referring you. They're expecting you and your voice to show up. That is the quiet ROI that most people don't track because it's not so easy to track. It's often just something that you get a sense of. When people start reaching out to you and they start commenting on your content and they start engaging with your content or referring to your content, or you just see that they consistently open your emails and they're seeing what you're putting out there, that is a signal that your message is landing.
It is one of the best investments that you can do. It was definitely the best investment that I made in my business to do the Bold Day of Content with you.
You owe it to yourself to try a Bold Day of Content. You will definitely get the value you spend, but I think you'll get a lot more.
Sandy and Sam have very different paths and very different businesses, but they wound up with the same basic end state, which is clarity, content at scale, and a system that they can actually use and implement. So if you're wondering, is this for me? Do I need a bold day of content? I'm not sure. Here's a simple rubric to kind of go through. Number one, you have tons of ideas, but you don't have a system. And because you don't have a system, you start and stop, you're inconsistent, you're all over the place, and every time you create a post or a blog post or an email or whatever, it feels like you're starting from scratch. That's a really good sign that a bold day of content is going to be super, super helpful for you. Number two is you don't have the bandwidth. Whether or not you have a team, content is currently stealing focus from your client work, and that's causing a lot of problems. You just don't have the bandwidth to create the content that you need to continue driving the growth of your business. Number three is that you are in the middle of a pivot or you have recently pivoted and you need your content and your website to match who you are now. So a lot of times, even if someone hasn't gone through a full rebrand with me, maybe they've gone through a rebrand on their own, or maybe they're going through a partial rebrand, or they're not ready to invest in a full rebrand yet. We're all starting from different places, and I really try to meet my clients where they are. So even if my client is not ready to go through the full rebrand process, but their voice has changed, or their message has changed, or what they want to be putting out there has changed, we can adjust the website, we can create a brand strategy, we can do all of that without actually going through the full rebrand, and we can use the bold day of content for that. Here's who it's not for. If you are the type of person who has a really strong grip on your content, you're not ready to outsource it, right? You want to micromanage everything because it feels too close to you and you can't let go. Totally understandable. I get it. I'm a control freak too, but probably not right for you to outsource your content. However, even if that is you, I would say it might be worth a try. It might be worth trying a day and seeing how it goes because you might find yourself really surprised. So what can you actually expect from a bold day of content in terms of output? Now, here's where things get a little bit tricky because it's really dependent on your needs and where you're starting from. But I'll give you some examples of the kinds of things that are able to be created within a bold day of content. And I'll use Sandy and Sam as examples because they've been great examples this whole time. So Sandy, I actually realized that I misspoke and we did 2 bold days of content together, not just the one. They were just spread out over a few months. So a few months before Sandy came to me for the bold day of content that we focused on in this conversation, she came to me to actually build her out a brand strategy. And so that happened within the context of a bold day of content. So I took her through my bold foundation process where I sat with her for 90 minutes. I call it brand therapy. I've referenced this many times on the podcast. But basically, we just get really deep under what is this brand that we're trying to build? What is the purpose here? What's the impact that we're trying to make? And then I build out a really clear, really detailed brand strategy brief. And that forms the foundation for everything that comes from that. So it's an essential piece. And this is really where I start pretty much every client, whether they're coming to me for a brand and website or for a bold day of content. I did the same thing with Sam. Our first session was spent building her out a bold foundation. So it's really essential step in the process and making sure that we're creating content that aligns with your brand strategy. So I did that for Sandy. And then she came back to me a few months later and said, now I need your help implementing this. So then we booked another day. And as I mentioned, in the first part of the day, I rewrote her web copy for her website. She has a single scroll website and I referenced back the brand strategy that we had built out. That again, I was coming back to that foundation and I built out the new web copy along with some suggestions for the design. I wasn't actually designing the website, but I was creating the content for the website and giving her some feedback on how to make it as interactive and user-friendly as possible. That was the first half of the day. The second half of the day, I built her out a full content marketing calendar for 3 months. She wanted to actually create the content herself. So some clients really want to create content themselves. They just lack the direction and they need some guidance. And many of my clients are coming to me to say, I don't want to make this myself. I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth. So create it for me. That's also something that we do. That's more on the Sam side. And we'll talk about that in a second. But on Sandy's side, she really just wanted direction. What am I posting? Why am I posting this? What's my goal here? So I created her a really detailed content marketing calendar so that she could post consistently and stay visible to her audience. We built out her content marketing pillars. So what are the topics that she wants to go really deep on and that she wants to be known as an authority on? And then actually building out, here's what you're going to film for this reel, or here's how you're going to create this carousel post. I gave her captions. I gave her really everything that she needed to go and create that content. I just wasn't creating the reels for her or creating the carousels for her, but giving her all the direction she needed to just take it and run with it. So that was Sandy. That's an example of what a bold day of content can look like. And in her case, again, it was 2 bold days of content in total. So she came away with a clear brand strategy, new web copy to match that strategy, and then a content marketing calendar, again, always mapping back to that foundational brand strategy. Now, in Sam's case, because we work together 2 days a month, we're able to actually build momentum in a much deeper way. And I'm actually creating content for her, but again, using content that she already has created so that it stays in her voice. So some examples, it really depends on the day, what we actually create. But an example would be a couple of weeks ago, I created 4 blog posts. We got her set up with an email newsletter. I created a template for a monthly email newsletter. I created Substack posts for her because she wants to launch a Substack. And I loaded up a whole bunch of social posts in Metricool, which is her social media planning platform that she uses. So I create all this content. I send it over to her for approval. And then once it's approved, usually it's the end of the day. So within the boundaries of the day, that content doesn't necessarily go live until our next session. But because we are constantly working ahead, she has this incredible backlog of content and she's really, set for a couple of months at least. We've published case studies for her. We've created carousel posts for LinkedIn. When we started, I started with the bold foundation, and then the next thing that I did was update her web copy to match the brand strategy that we had built out. So really, I always like to start with that foundation. And the honest truth is that sometimes some clients are a little itchy to get started, right? They want to just start creating content, which is great. And I love that momentum, but we always want to start with that really strong foundation. Some clients are coming to me and they already have all those pieces in place. They're super clear on their brand strategy. They have all the documentation that they need to give me so that I can fully absorb their brand voice and all of that. And then we can hit the ground running. That does happen. But for many of my clients, I would say the vast majority, there is a need to first set that foundation because we don't want to create content for the sake of creating content. That is one thing that's really important to understand, is that the goal here is not just creating content at scale and posting consistently. That's not the whole goal, because if you're posting consistently, but you're posting the wrong kinds of content, and you're not posting the types of content that are going to directly connect with your dream clients, right? The people that you want to attract, that's going to be a lot of wasted effort. So we want to avoid that. And we want to make sure that you have that strong foundation that ensures that all the content that we're creating ladders back up to your goals. It's in the right voice that you want your brand to have. It is saying the right things in the right ways on the right platforms to connect with your dream clients. So all of that has to be there. And then we can hit the ground running and start creating content at scale. Now, what can this look like? You've seen 2 examples here, right? Sandy has done 2 one-off full days of content, whereas Sam is doing 2 days a month. What are your options? Really, it can be anything in between. I do one-off full days of content when it's appropriate. I usually recommend doing at least a 3-month engagement, because creating content, unless you want to go the Sandy route and you want to create the content yourself. If you want to create the content yourself, there's no need to do this ongoing, recurring project because I'm going to give you the plan and you're going to go and implement it and it's going to be fantastic. If you need ongoing help creating content though, it's really a good idea to do at least a 3-month engagement. And it can be 1 day a month, it can be 2 days a month, it can be up to 4 days a month, right? 4 days a month would be once a week. And that's really allowing us to create a ton of momentum. And if you have really robust needs on the content front, it's really a good idea to do, the more the better, right? We can create email newsletters, we can create LinkedIn newsletters, we can have a weekly blog post or more, we can create a ton of social content. There's really just the sky's the limit, the more days we have. But it's not necessary. We really create a ton of momentum, even with just 1 day a month or 2 days a month. So I usually recommend starting with a 3-month engagement because it does take time to build that momentum. It's not like you're going to have 1 month of posting great content and all your clients are going to come running in and then you're going to be inundated and you can wash your hands of your content, right? It takes time to build momentum. It takes time to build that voice and that expectation in your dream clients. So 3 months is usually a good place to start and to start seeing that momentum building. And then we go from there. I always check in with you along the way and make sure, do you want to continue past the 3 months? Do you want to stay at your current level? Do you want to increase or decrease where we're at? I'm always checking in with you. You're never locked in. I don't do year-long engagements because your needs change, my needs change, my offerings change, right? And I always want to make sure that there's room for us to work together along the way. So that's what you can expect from the Bold Day of Content. The Bold Day of Content turns scattered ideas into a repeatable content engine that consistently brings clients to your door. And it does all this without burning you out. It requires very little time on your part, and it does not flatten your voice or change your voice or any of that. You are still going to be the essence of your brand. Your voice is the essence of your brand, and that is going to come through over and over. Now, here's something that I need to say up front. I only take a very limited number of Bold Day of Content clients each month so that I can stay all in for each client. So if you want to book a Bold Day of Content, or if you are curious to learn more, head over to honeybeebold.com/BDOC. That's HONEYBEEBOLD.com/BDOC or DM me BDOC and we'll set up a time to chat and I'll learn about your goals and we'll figure out if this is the right fit. Thank you so much to my incredible clients, Sandy and Sam, for sharing their experiences. And if this episode helped, please send it to a friend who is drowning in content chaos. You're going to be their hero. Thanks so much for tuning in.